الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. My name is Sophia, I'm your host. The aim of Let the Quran Speak is to help you gain deeper insights into Muslims and Islam, as it is practiced here and in other parts of the world. In this episode, what happens after Hajj? How can the experience of Hajj serve to guide us in the larger journey of life? We'll be exploring this subject shortly, but first, how can we understand events like Hurricane Sandy, which led to many deaths and the destruction of property? Are hurricanes, earthquakes, and other environmental disasters acts of God? What lessons can believers draw from these disasters? Here with us, Brother Shabir Ali, President of the Islamic Information Center. Brother Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Pleasure to be on.
Now, I guess people who don't believe in God would look at this natural disaster and say, well, this is evidence that God doesn't exist or God doesn't care. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is a common argument in support of atheism to say that, well, if God was good and he was able to do everything, then he wouldn't allow some such things as hurricanes and tornadoes and so on. But the response to that would be to say that God, though being good and though being able to prevent evils, nevertheless allows some things which are undesirable and sometimes great evil for good purposes. So, or to put it a different way, there can be certain logical constraints or logical constraints in the creation, such that in order for creation to be what it is and to produce the kinds of beings that God wanted to realize in this on our planet, for example, intelligent human beings like us, then it was necessary for the universe to evolve according to certain, what we are referring to as natural laws. And it is those very natural laws which give rise to things like hurricanes and tornadoes. As in the recent one, there was a meeting of 3 different systems. So these systems and the laws that govern them are there from the creation of the world. And it is the collection of all of the systems together that give rise to the development of sentient beings, humans, who would be able to recognize God and respond to God in the way that we do. If God wanted to do it differently, he could have done it differently, but we would have had a very different world. For example, everything could have been programmed to come out exactly right, so that there is no harm, there is no evil, there is nothing disagreeable. But is that the kind of world we would have liked to be in? Or, to put it a different way, would that have realized God's purpose? Because there is such a world, we imagine heaven, in which nothing goes wrong. But to get there, we need this stepping stone, a life of trial, of difficulties, of ups and downs, of upheavals, of tornadoes and hurricanes and tsunamis and so on.
So, Brother Shabir, it seems like you're giving a natural explanation, but on the other hand, there are individuals of faith, and not necessarily Muslims, I haven't heard Muslims make this argument this time, but who say, well, this sort of act is an act of God intended for those who have committed evil. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the 2 explanations are not mutually contradictory or exclusive. I've described things from a natural point of view, and to say that, well, there are natural constraints in the way in which God created the world. But on the other hand, we can describe the same things from the point of view of God's action and from God's motive and purpose. And we can say that these are undesirable things, to be sure, but God allows them for certain good purposes. And behind this dark cloud, there is a silver lining in that some good things come out of bad situations. And it is for those good things that God allows the bad situations, in addition to the fact that there are logical constraints. So in other words, God accepts that in creating the world in this way, such bad things will happen, but the redeeming factor is that out of these bad things, some good will come out.
So what is the good that you can see coming out of this situation?
Well, there are several good things. One is that people can take a step back and reflect on the way life was going, because when things are going smoothly, we do not think about what we're doing wrong. And we don't want to say that any one country is doing terribly wrong, because these natural disasters, as you know, occur almost everywhere, and it could hit any country and anyone. It could hit Muslims, it could hit non-Muslims. Sometimes Muslims are struck with such calamities to test Muslims and to see if their faith will withstand such difficult times. Other people may be tested for different reasons. Sometimes Muslims are being punished for their sins, and we believe that going through this kind of test and trial and tribulation will relieve us of some of the punishment of the life hereafter. So we all have sins, and we pay for them either here, or God forgives them, or we might pay for them in the life hereafter. Sometimes such calamities have this redeeming factor in that we receive the punishment here, which, bad as it is lighter than the punishment in the life hereafter. Now, in looking at the global situation, no country is without error, and certainly many human rights groups have pointed to abuses which have been noted, for example, in relation to drone strikes. The excuse for drone strikes is that we're battling terrorists and we're taking them out before they take us out. But at the same time, these are known to kill civilians as well. So who keeps a record of all of these civilian deaths, and where is the balancing factor and the equalization at the end of it all? So we can say that it is possible that God is allowing such undesirable occurrences to get people to think, have we done anything wrong, and is there something we can repair? Think about, for example, the Guantanamo trials. The President of the United States has tried to eliminate these trials and to move the trials into the open courts of America, and he was not successful in doing so. So is there something that has gone wrong? People need to think about these situations, and we need to think about our actions. Sometimes the undesirable occurrences get us to, it kicks us out of our complacency, to put it this way.
It seems like a very harsh trial for someone to undergo in order to come out stronger, I guess, or better.
Yes, and of course, having said all of that, we don't want to minimize the reality of human suffering, and we pray not for destruction but for guidance, and we pray to God to remove calamities and difficulties and to help people who are suffering everywhere. And of course, certainly in this recent storm, many Muslims were affected as well. And we pray to God to relieve the suffering of all of them, not Muslims or non-Muslims.
All right, thank you for that, Brother Shibir.
You're welcome.
We'll take a break when we return after Hajj.